You already know that some aircraft have the right-of-way over others. In addition to right-of-way rules, there are some other procedures that will help you avoid a collision. And believe me, there's lots better ways of running into people. So learning these procedures will help you be much safer so that we can run into each other at the flight school over a cup of coffee. Let's assume that you're flying a VFR cross-country trip on an airway and you decide to change altitude. Well, it's not always easy to see over the nose to spot other traffic. So the FAA recommends that you execute gentle banks to the left and right to scan the airspace ahead and ensure that you're not climbing into or descending on top of another aircraft. How about formation flight? Well, formation flight can be a lot of fun, but logically enough, it's not allowed unless you've made prior arrangement with the pilot in command of each aircraft that ends up in the formation. As I said, formation flying is a lot of fun, but not if some ding-dong drops in unannounced, determined to make you his wingman. It could create more than just a dented bumper. Now, acrobatic flight can be exhilarating, exciting, really a thrilling thing, but you have to be careful where you do it because acrobatic flight is prohibited in a number of areas. First, it's prohibited within the lateral boundaries of the surface areas of Class B, C, D, and E airspace when that airspace is designated for an airport. That makes sense? It better. Those are really congested areas and you don't want to be doing acrobatic flight where you're likely to run into another aircraft. Here are some other places where acrobatic flight is prohibited. Class E airspace designated as a federal airway, below 1,500 feet AGL, over any congested area of a city, town, or settlement. Acrobatic flight is prohibited with less than 3 miles visibility or over an open-air assembly of persons. But if that's the case, aren't all the air shows then breaking the rules? Well, no. Low-altitude acrobatics are done at air shows with special waivers. Both the air show location and the performer, or the contestant if it's an acrobatic contest, will have waivers that allow them to drop to much lower altitudes and perform before open-air assemblies of persons, which you'll certainly find at an air show. So how do you know when you're doing acrobatics? Well, it's not when you start to reach for the zigzag. It's an intentional maneuver that's not necessary for normal flight, involving an abrupt change in aircraft attitude, an abnormal attitude, or abnormal acceleration. It's also important to know when you intentionally pitch the nose of the aircraft up or down at least 30 degrees or bank more than 60 degrees, each occupant must wear a parachute. If the type of parachute you use is a chair-type chute, it must have been inspected by a certified parachute rigger within the preceding 120 days. Another way to keep aircraft from running into each other is to fly at the proper altitude. So what is the proper altitude? When you're flying VFR in level flight and more than 3,000 feet above the ground, there are specific altitudes you need to fly. On magnetic courses of 0 through 179 degrees, basically north and east, you fly odd altitudes plus 500 feet. Odd altitudes plus 500 feet means 3,500 feet, 5,500 feet, 7,500 feet, and so on. On magnetic courses of 180 degrees through 359 degrees, basically south and west, you fly even altitudes plus 500 feet. That would give you an altitude of 4,500 feet, 6,500 feet, 8,500 feet, and so on. An easy way to remember exactly where the degrees split between the odd and the even altitudes is to use the memory phrase 1. O stands for odd, N stands for north, E stands for east. A snap, right? This way, VFR aircraft traveling in different directions will be separated by 1,000 feet. Also, you'll be separated by 500 feet from IFR aircraft because they fly at 1,000-foot altitudes, like 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet, and so on. Remember, too, that these altitudes are based on your magnetic course, not what your compass indicates. A course is a track across the Earth. You can even think of it as a line drawn on a chart, like a road or airway. We'll talk more about courses and headings a little later on when we discuss aerial navigation. So with all this information, you'll only run into me at the flight school and not while you're performing an outside loop.